this to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. This one coming from location, Destin, Florida, right outside of Sammy's Bar and Grill.
So, Bar and
Right,
Grill
Corey?
Sandwich Shop. Yep.
So this is where it all started, the whole idea of having a podcast where we just talk about Saints and other shit and just kind of talk out of our ass with no real information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of talking out of the ass with no real information, I'm going to turn it over to Corey, the man of the hour, bachelor party weekend. What you got, bud?
Yep. Getting married in December, and we do. So, like Max said, we're on location. We're in Destin, Florida. Every year, the three of us and some other friends, we make a beach trip, and it's either been Gulf Shores or Destin. This year we're in Destin, and it kind of ties into, I guess, quasi bachelor party. I'm 38, kind of too old for that kind of shit nowadays. But I felt like we had to, pay some homage to the fact that, like Max said, the whole idea of a podcast, of doing a podcast. We had this debate. Max and Nick were just one year going at it. We had Brandin Cooks on the team, and the Panthers had Kelvin Benjamin, and then this whole shitstorm argument started about is Brandin Cooks worth it? He can't high point the ball. And I forget which one of y'all was Team Cooks and which one was...
I was Team Cooks. He was...
Yeah, and Max, you're like, no, he's worth it. He's a good wide receiver. And Nick's like, he could never high point a ball. He's never going to be that guy.
That was the game where he didn't high point the ball. He lost on the throw to the end zone against Carolina, right?
But the point of bringing that story is that, there was three of us, but we weren't the only ones in that trip. We had all of our friends there, another 7 or 8 guys in addition to us, but everybody in the room was transfixed on that debate. And and I jumped in a couple points, maybe trying to moderate a little bit. I don't know, but that's not exactly the stat he has, Max, or whatever. But y'all two just went at it so hard. Everyone was just like, how is this going to end? Everyone's fixated and looking. And so it's matriculated from there. That's how we always talk. But then the more we talked to everybody was like, we were entertained just listening to y'all go after each other. That was fun, And so it was at a beach trip when that happened. Here we are, year, I don't know, it's just the 10th, 11th year we've been doing this. And so, like we say, we're refreshing.
9 or 10, I think.
Yeah.
And ironically, we're having the same discussions that we had about Brandin Cooks, about Chris Olave.
Chris Olave. I mean,
and this is Max and I's forever debate about draft capital and trading multiple picks to get one player. And if it's an offensive player, Max is all for it. If it's a defensive player, he's completely against it. I hate it regardless. And we have the same discussion every time.
It comes up a lot. But what's cool about it is, we can move on to X's and O's after this, but what's cool about it is that, this is kind of where it all started. We're refreshing the feed this weekend. Twitter streets have been hot, so we're at the beach, and we're having a damn good time with some damn good guys, and back where it all started. But we could kind of call this overall, though, recentering, maybe a preview pod, but a half kind of preview pod, because you'll probably only have 24 hours to listen to this. What you got on that, Max?
Well, I want to segue. Max was doing with Olave, and now we're here.
Yeah, let's segue to the X's and O's.
He had a big week this week.
Yeah, he did. 70 and a 35. I mean, that's some good numbers.
Best stats of his weekend.
Gotta love the speed coming out of Chris Olave.
When y'all text, one of y'all text, I don't remember which one, and it's like, hey, the body cam footage is out of Olave. I mean, how amped would you have been if it was Steven Seagal arresting Chris Olave?
Dude, that would have been amazing.
Well, Steven Seagal was actually deputized by the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office as at first an honorary deputy, but he went all Steven Seagal mode. And he's like, no, I'm going on the streets and making arrests.
He did.
And as the fat ass 70-year-old that he was, didn't they do a TV show on that or something?
Yeah, he did. He stayed there for months, just actually being a cop.
Well, imagine him being like, I'm making a difference on the street. Olave's like, I play for the Saints. Just having a fucking face-off.
And Seagal kicks him in the face with a roundhouse.
The fattest roundhouse in history.
Yeah.
It's a roundhouse, literally.
That's the best way to describe him, pretty much.
I see what you did there, Nick. That was good. That was on my level of
that was
dad joke.
that was Corey dad joke.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was funnier than Corey's jokes. Let's be real.
My jokes are hilarious. But yeah, all right. So we got the Colts coming up tomorrow. We're recording this on a Saturday. Do y'all have any initial thoughts on that game? I mean, it's kind of hard it's hard to predict this team now. We predict them to lose, they win. We predict them to win, they lose. I mean, so how do y'all feel going into?
Well, we've predicted them like.
You have not predicted us to lose yet.
I haven't. Y'all have once, and y'all were wrong.
Yeah.
No. I picked him to lose last week. I was right.
Max actually was pretty spot on with his prediction.
Oh, you picked him to lose last week? I didn't remember that.
Because Max's prediction, if you go back and listen, was like, okay, so maybe you didn't predict like us moving the ball well in the first half, but Max like it's going to be a close game. I don't know if you said we're going to be winning at some point, but you basically said it's going to come down to the last play. I mean, you said it's going to be a heartbreaker, and you were spot on that. The one thing that didn't
the groupie miss again. We predicted another groupie miss.
Yep. And the shank off the not shank, but it hit the upright. I mean, it went in, but I remember when we scored to tie it. I looked at my brother who stood next to me, and I was like,
"We're gonna miss it."
I said, "Groupie has to make this extra point," and then he hits it off the upright.
Yeah, not shocking.
Yeah.
Not shocking. But
we covered that in depth last time too. That they haven't done anything with groupie. Well,
they did nothing in the long weekend, the pseudo bye week. We thought this might have been an opportunity.
At least bring someone in to scare him or something.
Just something. Bring in or the punter. Yeah. Like we're not talking about Hal Headley kicks like a 30-something yard punt at crunch time at the end.
Great field position for him.
Give them great field position. They go right down the field and score.
Yeah,
you can't be kicking a 30-something yard punt in a situation like that.
No, and I think we've had a whole week go by since our last recording. Our last recording was on a Sunday after the Jags game, so we had hoped that maybe Monday or Tuesday would have been the day if they were going to do anything that they would do anything. But this was floating around a lot. Underhill said it. Other guys said it. That like the way the game went down in the second half, in the fourth quarter, with that comeback and the offense actually looking competent in the hurry up, it was like the worst case scenario if you were somebody who wanted to see some kind of change with the offensive play calling or anything like that.
Well, I agree and disagree. If we come out fast immediately next week, I'm not saying every drive, but start to mix it up, kind of like the Patriots used to do when they were playing that short pass game offense that they were running. They'd come out one series and they'd run fast. They'd come out the next series, slow it down, and run the ball.
Yeah.
If you remember that, they would just vary. If we come out and make that change, then I would disagree that it didn't show us something. What it showed you is he operates better in that world. That's why he's been such a good comeback guy in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
He likes going fast.
Yep.
So let's just see if that works, if he's been better at that, because the regular isn't working too well. So just give it a try. Come out, 2 series of your first 5 series and just go quick and see if it makes any difference. Yeah. But I agree with the sentiment that, maybe it masks the fact that we saw nothing different for, 2 quarters.
Yeah. I mean, because it was easy to say in a hopeful way before the Jags game that if we lose, and we lose in a heartbreaking fashion, that – not a heartbreaking, but if we lose and it just looks like shit again, then something has to change. Like, it's easy to say that, and it's just – there was just a different feeling after the game. Like, it just didn't feel – it felt like, yeah, we said that, but it just feels like we're going to do the same old shit again. Like Dennis Allen's favorite line. Yeah, just keep doing what we're doing. We're working hard to fix it.
Definition of insanity.
Yeah. Is sticking.
He did come out this week and he said it's time for the offensive stuff to stop. Like it's now, and it's way past due. But he finally said something like, "We can't accept that." It's the first thing he said that I thought was slightly negative. Where yes, our problem is our offense right now.
Yeah, and I hope him saying that means he's willing to do something about it. Because I'm not yet convinced that when he says stuff like that means we're going to see any action. Because he's continuously said, he said a lot of things. He just. Gives it's like worse than politician answers in the press conference.
Yeah, and it's not his forte either. We know that, being in front of cameras and answering these questions. He's not fluent at it. He doesn't have that Peyton way of dealing with media or many of the other coaches. He's pretty poor at it. Yeah. But you're forced to say something with the NFL rules, and you're forced to take those interviews. Ideally, he wouldn't have to say much, but there's no way to avoid it, and he happens to be fucking terrible at it. Even when we look good, he's still bad at answering the questions.
Yeah, we might have a pound for, like, if we didn't have the worst, like, worst looking red zone offense, like, we might have pound for pound, like, the worst press conference head coach coordinator combination.
Oh man, it's awful.
they're terrible.
Because when you get Carmichael up there, God, he just looks like he's ready to just like cringe levels of uncomfortable.
They are the black hole of charisma. Neither one of them has any of it.
That's a fact. And sometimes, I mean, Belichick's the same way, I guess, as far as his personality. But, I don't know if there's another comparable to that level of, just not giving a shit.
Well, Belichick, it's patently obvious that he's doing it on
being
purpose.
sarcastic.
Even when he gets a little smirk. So, do it that way.
But if he was 3-4 and 20-40 as a head coach, it probably wouldn't be as funny.
If he was 18-42 career,
18-40, whatever,
it wouldn't be funny.
No.
Okay. Switching, to the Colts preview. We've kind of had Gardner Minshew's number over the last few games. Do y'all think that DA's got something on him? Gardner just hasn't performed well? Because I didn't watch the Colts-Browns game, but all the reports were that Indy looked pretty good. And the Browns have had the best defense in the league, and they put up 38 points on them. What do you think
I didn't like this matchup in our preview pod when we talked about it. To me, it looks like it looked like a loss.
And we know how good the roster was. We talked a lot about that.
Right before the season, this looked like a loss, or at least a very, very tough game. And my feelings on that haven't changed at all. I don't see us winning tomorrow, if we're being honest.
Okay.
I see this 3-game stretch, and it's a pivotal 3-game stretch. But this just smells like 1-2 coming out of this stretch.
People keep pointing to this game, the Bears game, Vikings, as it's like the hope is creeping back in. And I'm like, why are people letting the hope creep back in? I mean, look, I want us to win all of the remaining games. Is there always a chance that something just clicks? Are we maybe very close on offense? I don't know. I'm not an offensive expert. I'm a fan. I know what I've seen before. I know what I've seen out of this team, seen out of the players we have on the team. But when you look over the next 3 or 4 games and people are saying man, if we can just take care of business and just, win 3 out of these 4 games, or maybe even go 4-0, we'll really, be in good position with the NFC South. And I'm like, what makes you think after watching the games to this point that we even can be the ones talking about winning 3 out of 4 or winning 4 games? Before the season, it looked like, there weren't a lot of games on the schedule that we can't win. It was almost none. We talked about it in the season preview how easy the schedule looked. Now, you can't say that about any game. I can't look at any team on our schedule and say, oh yeah, we're definitely winning that game, or we should win that game. It has completely flip-flopped based on the quality of play. So when I look at the next 4 games, yeah, sure, there might be weak teams, but what have the Saints shown you to make you think that just because it's a weak team that we should win? Right now, we shouldn't be just pegged in to win any of the games left on our schedule. It's a show me thing. I'm not saying we're going to lose all of them, but you can't just peg us in.
Well, I think what gives you hope is the division, because I think they all feel the same way right now. No one's happy with what they look like. We have the highest scoring offense in our division. Yeah, that's how bad our division is.
Insane.
All we do is talk about how terrible our offense is, and it's literally the best in the division. That's insane. So there's hope there. There has to be, because you're a game out. You play that team twice.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's hope. Do I think any game is losable and any game's winnable? The rest of it, yeah, of course, until they show something. And it's the NFL. Every team's coming to play. Chicago comes out and blows somebody out and then gets beat by 30 the next week. The Patriots beat the Bills. This stuff happens.
Yeah.
So, and we're nowhere near the level of the Bills. So you could lose any game anyway, but I think you have to have hope when you still we control our own destiny, right?
Yeah.
Right now we control our own destiny for the season, 7 games in the season. So you can't just abandon hope. You just have to, and our offense doesn't have to get good. Our offense has to get decent.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to get good.
I think it's been established, and if it hasn't been, it should be, that the common denominator in all of our losses so far are that we have beat ourselves.
Implode, right.
And what's impressive to me about that, we have lost.
That's what bad teams do, though. They beat themselves.
Yeah, but the impressive part about that being the reason for our losses is that it hasn't mattered if it's a good opponent or a bad opponent. Some people have the Jacks. I was listening to ESPN Radio, and they were doing a top 5 per conference list, and there's people that legitimately have the Jaguars as the 3rd best team in the AFC right now,
which is crazy.
And so you could have beaten the 3rd best team in the AFC but you couldn't get out of your own way.
Right.
And it's like, but at the same time, you also lose to like a poor, what it should be labeled as a poor Bucks team. And it's the same exact issue. Like, you just didn't get out of your way. You didn't get blown out. They weren't,
I feel like the Bucks kind of rolled over. That looked like they were ready to play and we weren't to me. And that's the one game that's the most troubling to me. But I agree with you. We weren't out of the game.
Or the Packers. Like the Packers game was easily many opportunities in that game to just
kick a winning field goal potentially.
Put it away. And so it's like you have a bad team like the Packers and then a good team like the Jags. But both games, it's the same issue. It just shows you that it's an inside thing. And it goes back to what we said last episodes before that. Sign of a not well coached team.
But I would also say the NFL margins are super small, and when your kicker influences 2 games the way he did, if we were right now, let's say those 2 games go our way because he doesn't miss those kicks, those 3 kicks in the 2 games, one the game winner, then the 2 kicks in the other game. 5-2.
It's crazy
with a bad offense. And everyone's saying a completely different thing right now. But the margins are so small when you don't make those plays, you lose in the NFL because we're not a great team. None of us thought we were a great team. We all thought we could win the South. I mean, Max did pick us as Super Bowl champs, but other than that,
hey, it could still happen.
It could. All you got to do is make the playoffs. That's why I say there's hope. All you got to do is make the playoffs. The Giants did it. Made a run at the last 5 games of the season.
What was our record through the first 4 games in 2006? Do y'all remember off the top of your head?
3-0.
I think we started 3-0.
We started 3-0. Okay, bad reference. But there's teams that have started like the Super Bowl winning Giants. It's not
started slow.
It's not unprecedented to have a losing record, maybe by 1 game. 7 games in.
49ers last year. Probably win the Super Bowl if they didn't get hurt. Yeah. They started very slow.
It's not unprecedented to just come out the gates with shit out of order and it causing you to lose. It sucks. It sucks to watch as fans, and I think we've all said this. I just want to enjoy these games. And right now, like Max said last episode, he has enjoyed his time in the Superdome thus far for 6 whole minutes. I mean, and
that's being generous.
I mentioned it to.
It is not going to be a fun team to watch. Let's be honest. We're all spoiled, especially our generation, watching 15 years of Breeze.
Yeah.
And now we want to see those type of fun. Even when we lost with Breeze, we always had a chance, and he was throwing for 500 yards if we were losing.
And if there was a game where Breeze there was 0 touchdowns from the Saints, or there was no splash plays, that was certainly the exception, not the norm. And with this team, it's like I was talking with my brother and my friend Derek about it, both of whom are here with us on location, that it's like going to church on Sundays. It's turned into like, I got to do it. I know I'm not going to necessarily have like the most fun, but I got to go sit my ass in that seat and whether or not we all go to church every Sunday, that's a different topic. But it's like when you were a kid and your parents are like, all right, got to watch this game, because I'm not going to not watch the Saints. I mean, I'm going to watch the game no matter what.
Of course.
But I know right now, I don't think it's going to be a fun thing to watch.
You just got to drink a little more.
It's like going to mass.
Just keep drinking. Especially when we're on offense.
Yeah, that's our health,
but let me ask you this.
Health note.
If I had to force you to pick a bright spot of the last 2 weeks of the offense, could you come up with anything?
Man, that's tough.
I mean, over how
just the last 2 games.
The last 2 games?
Because after Tampa, we were in shambles, right? So that's when I feel like we all said we're drawing a line, and since then we've lost 2 games, right? No, we won 1 and then lost 2. We beat the hell out of the Patriots. Everyone had a little bit of optimism. Then we came out and had those 2 performances. But just on the offense, there's 2 things I think I'll say first, because I know I'm more optimistic than you guys on offense about a potential, not a turnaround, but an improvement.
Okay.
The offensive line, that's the best 2 games they played.
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't perfect. It was what we saw in the first 4 games of the season was a catastrophe. It wasn't a catastrophe the last 2 weeks. Something got better. We've bench penning. We've made changes. We brought in Cam. We did a bunch of things with a makeshift line, and it looked better. Something changed there. I'm not giving credit to the coaches. Maybe the players started playing. Whatever it is, it got a little bit better. And then we moved the ball better as a whole. We had drives of way less 3 and outs, over 400 yards both games, 1 time of possession both games. It looked just a little bit different. It wasn't great. We didn't score. We failed when it counted. All that same shit was still going on. But those 2 things give you, if you convert 1 more red zone in both of the games and get 4 more points, we scored 24 and dropped a touchdown to go for 31 points last week. That's better than we've been. It was not great. The first half was terrible, but it's better.
And it was against a much
better team
opponent,
right?
So
I haven't given up complete hope. We talked about it in the beginning of the season. We all said, "Hey, this is going to take 3 games, 4 games, 5." All of us were saying, "Carr's got to figure it out." Carr has figured out some stuff and has looked really bad on some stuff. If he stays like this all year, we're in deep trouble. We know that. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Do I think there's a scenario where they start to figure a couple things out to start scoring 4 or 5 more points a game? I do, from what I saw the last 2 weeks. Could we be a 22-point team instead of a 19-point team? That team's going to win games.
Yeah.
With the defense.
Well, yeah, they should. If the defense keeps playing the way it's been playing.
Not in the first half. They've been terrible in the last 2 first halves.
Yeah, but for the whole game. If they can continue to hold teams to...
You still trust them, though, right?
Around, maybe...
Overall?
Not the Jags getting 31, but, like... If most games, I trust them. I say that, though, I do have some concerns with the idea that our defense as a whole is not young. And as the season goes on, they could start to slow down, or it's going to take longer, maybe harder for them to recover. So I haven't seen that completely kill us. I mean, maybe the Kirk touchdown in the Jags game is an example of, like, not really having anybody on the field that could just, like, go chase him down or, like, not get completely smoked across, like, on the crossing route in the first place.
It was a badass route, though, too.
It was a badass route. I mean, Lawrence put it on exactly where he didn't have to break stride. Because you see it so often. We've seen Carr hit crossing routes where the guy has to stop, and then by the time he starts running again, he gets tackled. I mean, if you hit a guy perfectly in stride on those types of routes in the NFL, it's like running a jet sweep, but like 10 yards down the field.
Right, and the problem is everyone's backs to the play at that point. Because they were running goes on the outside.
If it's a nice play design, then like Doug Peterson did. I mean, our wonderful Zoom call interview
was a false start though. That they missed.
Yeah, I saw that. NFL's just like hasn't been giving a shit about false starts. They're just like, we'll just
sometimes.
NFL's like, these are big guys. We'll give them half a step this year. Okay, we haven't given the offense enough advantages yet, so let's just let the big guys like get half a step in these games. And then you get like the offensive line defenders, the retired offensive linemen being like, "That's perfect timing. Look at it. Look at when the ball snapped." It's like he definitely
missed it. He missed it.
Like he came out the blocks.
Man, I watched the Eagles game. I guess it was Monday night. Their offensive tackles false started 90% of the plays.
Lane's the best in the league at it. He's the best in the league at it.
Lane Johnson, right?
Lane Johnson, yeah.
Yeah.
He false starts every play.
Every
never
play.
Gets called.
Every
never
play.
Gets called.
And they didn't call one penalty against the Eagles the other day. So the NFL still has an officiating problem. This is not new news.
That's not why we lost. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But they did miss the call.
But I mean, so I do have some concerns about the defense with their age and how they are going to perform as the season goes on, like later in the year. But it hasn't really reared its head yet to me. We played a tough offense, a really good offense in the Jags, so they put up points. But it teams that we should have held to 20.
7 of those was the pick 6, though.
And that's true. The offense is 24. So, I mean, like holding a Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson offense to 24 points, I think is nice and good. The other teams we've held to 20 or under, we should have. So far, so good. I think, so going back to the bright spot on the offense, I think that's a really good question. I want to say Kamara.
That was my thought.
He obviously had some missed assignments. Like everyone's head was in the clouds in that Jags game. I mean, I think
in the beginning, yeah.
And I've said this too about the reason I think. So before I get Kamara, I think is a bright spot. I think overall, I think Mike Thomas is a close second, but he just hasn't been getting enough touches to like be like, oh great. But he's consistent. He's had a consistently like solid campaign so far.
Did y'all see that stat? Somebody put it out there. I don't remember who. Sorry. About separation and being open. And we all know Mike Thomas is never technically open, but always open.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was, I think, second worst in the league in separation, which that's his career. It's not like a drop-off. We always talk about how adept Olave is at running routes, and
he was in the middle of the road,
very middle of the road, not on the good end at all. Shaheed was like number 1 in the NFL.
Shaheed was like top 3
something like that
category. So
yeah,
so he had like 7+ yards
because obviously he's got a higher percentage of go routes, but like when he does a double move, he just makes people look silly.
Yeah,
he's like, I think 30 yards of separation at that point, but I think. go back to that, it was circulating around and everybody had a take on it, that it was like some answer to the problems of did Olave do a good job, or was it Carr?
I'm so sick of seeing that play.
That not the play, but JT O'Sullivan had that video out, and
and then Chase Daniel had his rebuttal.
And I didn't see Chase's. It's like everyone is trying to throw in their 2 cents about that whole game. I am ready to leave that game in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe this can be our official 28-3 burial
we definitely overanalyze
of the Jags game.
One last thing to say about that, the play and the analysis
We want to
of it.
speak of the dead one more time.
No, this is just the last thing I'm going to say about it. We've touched on how Pro Football Focus, the ones that do their weekly grades and all that, people only use those stats to push whatever narrative, and we all do it.
Correct.
If it's a player we like, we're like, oh, look, he graded out in PFF as this week. If it's someone you don't like and someone brings that stat up to you, like, that's PFF, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, it was like the
It's
game
the same
Olave
thing
dropped
now.
one at the goal line. I forget what game it was.
He has 0 drops this year.
0 drops this year still, the one he dropped at the goal line.
Right.
He was the number 1 rated PFF that week for us. And
So
we're like,
it's the same principle with these videos. It's like if you don't like, Derek Carr, you're going to go look at the JT O'Sullivan video, go, hey, look at this video. JT O'Sullivan broke it down.
Yep.
If you don't like Olave and you do like Carr, you're probably going to go to the Chase Daniel video and be like, man, look, Chase Daniel broke it down this way.
you know how bad it is? We're watching videos from JT O'Sullivan and Chase Daniel about what to think.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like when I saw Chase came out with one, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. He did actually play in this offense, but I'm like, again, Ryan tweeted it out. He's like, come suit up, Chase. It's like, shit, I'd consider it.
I mean, it's just funny, though, because it's turned into this either or with Olave and Carr over the last couple of weeks. And that's not the case. We touched on it numerous times, online and offline. It's a cumulative effort over the whole offense. Everyone has blood on their hands at this point.
Yep.
Everyone is underperforming.
Someone we all
everyone everyone. Look, we cheer for whoever's wearing the colors of the team. We've been over this multiple times. Like, I'm rooting for the logo.
Yep.
So whoever's wearing the uniform, I'm going to pull for him.
Yeah.
And there's a whole camp of Saints fans that hate Derek Carr right now. There's a whole camp of Saints fans who hate Chris Olave. There's another whole camp of Saints fans who, fire Dennis Allen. And it's this tribalism that's just gone fucking bananas.
I mean,
it's wild. There's a civil war going on Saints Twitter.
Which is weird. Like, why are we trying to pick the one problem with the team that has
people want to have
players across the board? Like, we all love Foster. That was a bad drop.
It was a bad drop.
It was bad.
We love him.
We all love him.
Love him.
But we're taking turns in that role.
He should have caught it.
Yeah. That's a touchdown.
And I think, like I said, it's not. There's no weight of. We're not waiting. Like, are there people out there who are defending Carr and defending like the guys who they think are their boys? Yeah, there are people like blindly defending their pet player, and when it's Carr, the people that are blindly defending Carr look like assholes, just completely asinine, stupid takes, because you can't really defend him like from A to Z. Like, he has had serious flaws. He can't be defended the way some people defend him. People that are blindly defending Olave, like, Olave has had mistakes this year.
Yeah,
it's a fact. Does that mean that you have to either like defend him and say Olave has done nothing wrong, he should not have gotten the ire from Derek Carr or the fans? It's like, well, we've said it. I've already said it. Like, no, Derek Carr should not have fucking screamed at him on a football field on national TV. That is not what leaders do. That is a lapse in leadership to do that as the face of the franchise. But it does not mean that Olave is not a player on this team who has had mistakes. And so you have to look at it across the board. And I'll say, my last thing, I guess, in this burial service of that game is that the game is exemplary of the fact that, in my opinion, and I haven't really, because there's no way to know this, I haven't seen people really put this out there, this team is all up in their own heads. This team is pushing. Yep. This team is pressing. They are not playing free. They're not playing loose. They're not playing like they're having fun. And if you look at teams like the Chiefs, like when the Bills' offense is flying, any high scoring, our own team, when we were, Breeze, Thomas, Chernin, 2011, the 2009 team, it was fun. Like, those guys were, the Rams were blowing out the Rams, or the Eagles. They were blowing out the Eagles when were the color rush, and you're in the dome and they're playing Choppa style, and you've got AK and MT on the Jumbotron dancing, like, just crowd getting hyped. Like, that was when these guys were having fun. No one's having fun right now out there. I'm not saying they're playing well enough to where they should be dancing on the Jumbotron. They're not. But it's like when they're out there, everyone's so – it seems like they're playing like they're so afraid to screw something up. Carr's passes are being, like, placed in there. He's guiding them. He's trying to just – he's not just throwing it. The one time we saw the Saints play without really pressing was when they had to in the hurry-up. And so I think that's why we want them to go back to it. But this offense just needs to get out of their own heads from like across the board. Maybe Thomas is focused in, AK might be focused in, but Carr's in his own head. Olave's clearly in his own head.
But they both made mistakes.
They both made mistakes.
But AK's made some mistakes.
They've made mistakes, and so like they just need to get out of their own damn heads. I think it is a mental thing, and just play. Just go out there and play. I just want to see it. That's it. So that's my take.
I think we're pretty similar in most things, I on this. I have, less animosity towards Carr and his behavior in the field. I mean, there's been competitors in sports that do this stuff. To me, it's just sports. It's fine. We don't need to get emotional about it. It's emotional. It's frustrating. It's whatever. And I don't think he did anything so egregious to Olave that bothered me. But I understand why it bothers people. I get it. You can say it, looks like a bad leader or whatever. But, Tom Brady did this. Kobe did this. Jordan
Breeze
did it. Breeze did it. Everybody did it.
You're naming champion.
Fair. If we're going to make that the criteria, fine. I look at it as someone trying to win, and maybe he overreacted a little. I would agree. It was an overreaction.
Yes.
That he shouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, this is sports, and this is a grown man's game.
I don't have any issue
fine.
with him being passionate, with him getting intense. It's football. You're right. You should be intense and passionate. But, like, if you're the dude, like, be intense and passionate, like, with a one-on-one with your own player. I mean, who does it help?
I hear you. Ideally, I'm not disagreeing. Ideally, that's what it comes
we're
out
beating
as.
a dead horse here.
It's just, to me, it is what it is. I bet he went to Olave.
This is a burial service. So.
I bet he went to Olave after and said, "Hey, man, like, my bad on that."
And he said he did.
No big deal.
So,
and Olave's like, "Cool, it's fine." He's probably dealt with that.
We obviously think it's a much bigger deal as fans
because we lost.
Yeah. So
if we'd have won, it'd been like, what leadership?
But anyway,
if Olave catches the winning touchdown, look at that. He got on Olave. The next route was, it's all circumstantial.
Yep.
But we need to talk about the Colts at least a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of touched on them.
Let's just say this, though, for the record, we are all pulling for every single person that wears black and gold.
Yes.
We all want Derek Carr to succeed just like we want Chris Olave to succeed.
Yeah.
It's okay to pull for both of them. You don't have to pick a side and say, well, I want this one to succeed, but I don't want the other one to. We all want everyone wearing black and gold to succeed. That's the end of it.
100%. Yeah. We're not defending one any more than we're going to defend the other. There's no point in
They all have room for improvement.
Yeah, there's no point in doing that as a fan. And honestly, when you have a player who's so good, you get more frustrated when that player doesn't do well.
Exactly.
Because you know the potential that's there.
No one's getting upset when Keith Kirkwood comes out and puts up a goose egg every single game because we don't expect shit out of him.
Yeah,
we're expecting stuff out of Olave.
Exactly.
We're expecting stuff out of Carr. So
yeah. All right. So Colts a little bit. Do we just want to? I mean, I don't know how much really we talked about the game itself. We're going up against Garner. I think that they're bringing in Jonathan Taylor's on the team, and he's back from his time off. He's already played a few games now, so he's probably feeling.
He looked good last week.
Feeling pretty comfortable now, and.
I mean, honestly, we could probably just dive into predictions on this.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know. There's a whole lot to talk about the Colts team themselves because like we said, we've been. The Saints' biggest opponent this coming week is themselves.
Yeah.
Like the New Orleans Saints are the Saints' biggest opponent. So,
let's let Nick start us off with a prediction.
So let's roll into predictions, Nick. What you got?
Who's going to log him?
Corey will log him.
Yeah.
I'm not overly worried about their offense, even with Jonathan Taylor back. I think Pittman's the type of receiver that Lattimore tends to do very well with. Max and I were talking about the other day. The only guys who give him fits are those really quick twitch type of guys, route runners that are, like Jordan Jefferson, but he beats everybody in the league. The bigger physical guys seem to fit into Lattimore's game real well, so I'm not overly worried about that. They don't have a ton of other weapons on the outside. Taylor's amazing, but other than a couple busted plays in the run game this year, we've been solid as usual in the run game. So I think that's where we focus. Gardner's not going to run a lot, which has hurt us in previous weeks with Stroud and Lawrence, getting and even Baker a few weeks prior to that, getting critical third down conversions with their legs. I think Minshew's a little bit less likely to pick those up than those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we hold them in the teens. And then I'm with y'all. I have no fucking idea on offense. Like, could it be a breakout game? Could it be the same old thing? I believe any of those things can happen. So,
what you got? Prediction?
Yeah.
17-17.
The tie. You know, if any season was going to be a Saints tie, I think this would be the season we have a tie. They've reduced the overtime. You know, it's easier to get a tie nowadays, and good Lord. I don't know. Are you really predicting a tie?
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Seem despondent.
You have not picked against them yet.
I know, that's the problem. Like, I feel like I should, but I don't want to.
I guess that's a nice little transition. Like, it's putting your toes in the water of predicting a loss. You're going from...
I'm easing into it.
7 wins. I'm not ready for a loss, so I'll go tie.
I dog y'all for picking them 17-0 basically before the season, and I'm the one picking us 17-0. Oh, Corey, you've had us win every. No, you had us lose 1. Max had us lose 2. Yeah. And Max and I have the same record, and Corey's 1 game behind us.
Yeah. Max is the only one to correctly predict a loss. So far.
Correct. And we've had 4 of them, so we're not doing too good on the predictions.
Yeah. All right, quit dancing around. What you got? You're going full Corey treatment on this.
You really are.
27-17 Saints. I'm staying with it.
All right.
Okay. Who's your offensive MVP? Who's your
Carr? He's going to shut everybody up.
Ooh.
Carr and Olave.
Okay.
Carr and Olave are going to fucking cook.
So you're moving towards a kumbaya moment.
I'm thinking Carr over 270 and Olave over 100. All right. And they're the reason we win. And they just tell everybody, shut the fuck up about the drama on the field.
I like it.
Defense, DeMario might not play. That was where I was going to go with it with the run game, but he might not play. So I'll say Cam in the run game especially, and we hold them under 100 rushing yards. And
that would be impressive with Jonathan Taylor.
And their running team. And so I'm going to say Cam and the D-line. I'll pick Cam as the player, 2 tackles for loss.
So this is basically Cam's breakout game since week 1.
Since week 3, week 2 or 3, whatever it was.
Okay.
But this is the type of game Cam, I think, becomes an elite DE because they want to run, and he's still doing that at a very, very good pace. His pass rush, obviously, we've seen, it seems like it's dipped a bit, but in the run game, he's still a freaking animal and stout. So I'm going to give Cam that with 2 tackles for loss, and we hold them under 20 points, under 100 rushing yards, and 300 yards offense.
All right.
Very specific.
Well, Corey, we'll save you for last since this is your weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
But, all right, I'm going to keep it a little shorter than Nick just did with his Corey impersonation.
Sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and say...
We can't have 2 Corys.
I mean, you even busted out one of my jokes earlier. That was, you're...
Well, see, it's a full tribute to you this weekend, apparently.
That's nice. That's very nice.
I'm going to go, against my better judgment, I'm going to go ahead and say 24-21 Saints. I think that we've proven that we have Gardner Minshew's number. I'd be a lot more worried if Anthony Richardson were playing just from the mobility standpoint. But Gardner Minshew, being that he's starting, I'm going to go ahead and say 24-21 Saints. I think Carr does have one of his better games, but I'm going to go ahead and say Kamara is MVP, rushing touchdown and receiving touchdown. So offensive MVP, Kamara. Defensive MVP, you know what? Cam Jordan. He's been quiet for the last couple weeks.
So you and Nick are going the same guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Cam. He hasn't really done much in the last couple weeks. It just feels like he's gonna get 1 or 2 sacks this week.
Okay. So 24-21 Saints.
Oh, and special teams watch. I'll go ahead and say Groupie makes his only field goal attempt of the game.
But misses 4 extra points.
Now, you do have us winning by 3. Is he going to be kicking it to win the game, or is he going to kick it earlier in the game?
No, I think he kicks it earlier in the game, and we get a go-ahead touchdown late in the game. I think it's going to be screen pass to Kamara that gets busted for like 30 yards or something.
That would be nice because it means we would not have to huddle and take snaps in the end zone.
Yeah,
or 4 snaps from.
That's what we just need to bypass the red zone and just
keep running. Bo Jackson, just go straight through the fucking end zone.
Exactly.
That'd be lovely. I would love that.
All right, so what you got?
I'm just making sure I'm recording these notes for next time. All right.
So for the season, Nick and I are tied, and you're 1 behind us, right?
Yeah, I need to catch up.
So going loss.
There it is. What you got? It's sitting there for you to take it. Go against the grain.
Yeah.
Somehow his prediction is going to involve Marcus May. I can just feel it.
I mean, maybe he has to be the defensive MVP, or he loses, or he drops a pick that could have sealed the game.
If you keep picking it, one day it's going to happen, Corey.
Defensive MVP is going to be third in tackles for this game.
He had 4 tackles.
Yeah. God. You know.
Guys, you're not bringing down a space shuttle here. Come on.
I'm going win. I think it's easy to see why we would lose.
I think this is because we waited too long to do the preview pod this week.
Yeah, I've talked myself into it.
Y'all mellowed out.
I know. If you would have had me right after the Jags game, I'd be like, loss.
70-0.
The next game's
If
a
we would
loss.
have recorded yesterday, I would have picked us to lose.
The one after that's a loss. And the one after that's a loss. Like, Taylor Badgent is going to come in here and just light the dome on fire.
When we finished 3-14, what's our draft position?
Who do you have? You have
right.
Saints? What's the score?
The Saints, I tried to predict this into existence. This isn't what I'm doing now, but I really do think that we tighten up some things on offense. We
Score? What's the score?
28 Saints.
4 touchdowns? 4.
We might have. I'm going to go with 1. Yeah, 4 offense, 4 touchdowns. Offense with 4 touchdowns.
So no field goals. Got it.
No field goals.
So not 2 safeties and 8 field goals.
Yeah, I mean it could be that. And I think the defense has a little bit of a.
Well, who's your offensive MVP?
Offensive MVP is going to be. Did you go with Kamara?
I did, yeah.
All right.
You can take him as well. Imitation's the highest form of flattery. Go ahead for it.
Yeah, I think the offensive MVP is going to be. Oh,
Cam Irving.
Trevor Penning, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. It could be Cam Irving. I mean, all right, I'm just gonna get on with it. I'm gonna go with Olave. I think Olave comes in.
Shutting people up.
Look, he can either come in completely down, his head could be completely lost after everything that's happened this week, or he can talk to the right people. I think we have the right older leaders in this locker room that can get with him. He lean on his guys like Thomas, lean on his guys like AK, comes in with his head on fire and gets open. I mean, granted, that means that Carr has to put the ball on him. But I think he will. So I think Olave is the offensive MVP.
100 yards? What are we talking?
We're talking like 150, maybe like 115 yards, but his catches are going to come when we need them. Like
How many touchdowns?
Several third down conversions. He'll have 1 touchdown, but I think it's going to be more like the way he plays. Like he's going to get open when we need him to get open. He's going to make a ridiculous catch again. That doesn't seem like.
So he's going to run every route like he's coming home from CVS.
Yeah, 70 to 35.
Full speed.
You know.
There we go.
When we hit the 35-yard line, he's go 70.
There it is.
That's the rule. And so defensive MVP for me is I'm gonna go with Granderson. I think Minshew to an extent, he's gonna catch Minshew from the blind side a few times, or if Garner tries to run, he's gonna think he can get away from Big Creep, and he can't. Granderson's gonna have tackles for loss, sacks. So I'm going Granderson as the defensive MVP. I think he at least gets 1 sack, but punch him down for like at least 2 tackles for loss in this one.
Cool.
So, yeah, that's our predictions. Like we said, there's not really a whole lot else to talk about with the game itself because the Saints are playing the New Orleans Saints, just like they have been through the first 7 games this year. So with that, I think we'll wrap this one up.
We'll be back in a few days with the recap episode.
Yep.
So until then, who dat?
What a comeback!